The alarm bells rang through the Deep Space Communications Center in Nevada. Dr. Sarah Chun ran down the long hallway, her coffee spilling as she rushed to the main control room. She had been the head of alien signal detection for 12 years. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. "What do we have?" she asked as she burst through the doors. Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez looked up from his screen, his face pale. "It's coming from everywhere, Doc. Every satellite, every radio telescope, every communication array on the planet is picking this up. The signal is so strong it's overriding everything else." Sarah pushed past him to look at the main display. The wave patterns were unlike anything she had ever seen. They were too perfect, too organized to be natural. This was clearly made by intelligent beings. "When did it start?" she asked. 47 minutes ago. It just appeared on every frequency at once. No build-up, no interference. 1 second, nothing. The next second, this? Sarah grabbed her phone and called Director Williams in Washington. He picked up on the first ring. "Sarah, please tell me you have answers." His voice was tight with stress. "Sir, this is definitely artificial. Someone or something is broadcasting directly to Earth. The signal is incredibly advanced. They're somehow reaching every single communication device we have at the same time. Can you decode it?" Sarah looked at her team. They were all working frantically at their computers. "We're trying, sir. But the mathematics involved are beyond anything we've seen. This is technology that's hundreds, maybe thousands of years ahead of us. Keep working. The president wants answers in 2 hours." The line went dead. Sarah turned back to her team. "Okay, people, let's figure out what they're trying to tell us." For the next hour, the team worked without stopping. They tried every decoding method they knew. They ran the signal through quantum computers and artificial intelligence systems. Nothing worked. The signal remained a mystery. Then, suddenly, it changed. "Doc, you need to see this," called out Dr. James Park from across the room. "The signal just shifted. It's learning." Sarah ran over to his station. On the screen, she could see the wave patterns changing in real time. They were becoming simpler, more basic, as if whoever was sending the message was figuring out how humans communicated. "It's adapting to our technology," she whispered. "They're studying our communication systems and adjusting their signal to match." 5 minutes later, the first words appeared on every screen in the facility. They were in perfect English. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet." The room fell silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at the screens. After decades of searching for alien life, contact had finally been made. But something about the message felt wrong. The tone was cold, formal. More words appeared. "You are receiving this communication from the Galactic Council of Species. This message is being transmitted to your planetary government and all major population centers." Sarah's hands shook as she picked up her phone to call Director Williams again. But before she could dial, more text appeared on the screens. "Your species has been observed for 47.3 of your years. Your technological development and expansion beyond your home system has been noted and evaluated." Around the world, similar scenes were playing out. In Moscow, Beijing, London, and every other major city, government officials were watching the same message appear on their screens. Military bases, space agencies, and research facilities all received the transmission simultaneously. In the White House Situation Room, President Elizabeth Harper sat at the head of a long table surrounded by her top advisors. General Patricia Stevens, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward as she read the message. "Madam President, this is clearly a first contact scenario. But the language they're using is concerning." The president nodded grimly. "It sounds like they've been watching us for almost 50 years. "That would explain some of the UFO sightings we could never account for," said CIA Director Robert Hayes. "If they've been observing us since the 1970s, they know everything about our military capabilities, our technology, our weaknesses." More text appeared on the screens. "Your species has violated several galactic accords through your unauthorized expansion, the establishment of colonies on Mars, Europa and Titan, as well as your mining operations in the asteroid belt, constitute illegal occupation of restricted space. A restricted space? General Stevens stood up, her face red with anger. They're saying our own solar system is restricted? The message continued. Furthermore, your species has demonstrated aggressive tendencies through your military expansion into space. Your orbital weapons platforms and militarized space stations violate the Kadashev Accords of Galactic Peace. Secretary of State Michael Chun shook his head. We never signed any Kadashev Accords. We've never even heard of them. Because we were never asked, the president said quietly. They made rules about our space without including us. The alien message was now appearing on every television, computer, and phone screen on Earth. Billions of people were reading the same words at the same time. In New York City, traffic stopped as drivers pulled over to read the message on their phones. In London, crowds gathered around public screens, reading in stunned silence. The message continued. The Galactic Council recognizes that your species is young and may not understand the consequences of your actions. Therefore, we offer you an opportunity to correct these violations. Back in Nevada, Dr. Chun and her team were recording everything. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not alone, but they were also not welcome in their own neighborhood. These are the terms you must accept to avoid corrective action. The message continued. A list appeared on the screens. 1. All human colonies beyond Earth must be abandoned within 7 standard galactic cycles, approximately 7 of your years. All military vessels and weapons platforms in space must be dismantled and removed. Human space travel must be limited to your home planet and its immediate moon. Your species will accept protectorate status under Galactic Council oversight. A council garrison will be established in your solar system to ensure compliance. The room in the White House was completely silent. Everyone was reading the terms, understanding what they meant. Humanity was being told to give up everything they had built in space and accept alien rule. This is not a negotiation, General Stevens said finally. This is surrender. The alien message was not finished. These terms are non-negotiable. Your species has demonstrated the same aggressive expansion patterns that have led to galactic conflicts in the past. The Council exists to prevent such conflicts. President Harper stood up slowly. How many species are in this council? We represent 434 member species across the galaxy. All have learned to exist peacefully under Council guidance. Guidance, muttered CIA Director Hayes. They mean control. The message continued with what sounded like a threat disguised as concern. Your species shows promise, but your violent nature and rapid expansion pose a threat to galactic stability. The Council has successfully guided 434 species to peaceful coexistence. You will be the 435th. More text appeared, and this time the tone became even more ominous. Failure to comply with these terms within the specified time period will result in corrective action. The Council has the authority and capability to enforce galactic law. Resistance is not advisable. General Stevens slammed her hand on the table. They're threatening us. In our own solar system, they're threatening us. The final part of the message appeared. This communication will be followed by the arrival of Council Representative Zethkar of the hegemony species. He will establish a communication link in 7 of your days to receive your response. The Galactic Council hopes for your peaceful compliance. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the transmission ended. Every screen on Earth went back to normal. But the world had changed forever. In the Nevada facility, Dr. Chun stared at her screen. The implications were enormous. Humanity had just learned they were not alone in the universe, but they had also learned they were considered a problem that needed to be solved. Doc, Lieutenant Rodriguez said quietly, what do we do now? Sarah thought about the message. 7 days to respond. 7 years to abandon everything humanity had built in space. Accept alien rule or face corrective action. She picked up her phone to call Washington again. The president would need to address the nation soon. The world would want answers, but what could anyone say? How do you tell 7 billion people that aliens exist and they want humanity to surrender? Around the world, governments were holding emergency meetings. Military leaders were asking if Earth's defenses could protect against an alien attack. Scientists were trying to understand the technology that had just contacted them. Religious leaders were trying to explain what this meant for human beliefs about their place in the universe, but one thing was clear to everyone who had read the message. This was not the peaceful first contact that humanity had hoped for. This was an ultimatum from beings who considered themselves humanity's superiors. They had watched humans for decades, judged them, and found them wanting. The galaxy was not empty, it was ruled. And humanity had just been told to submit or face the consequences. The 7-day countdown had begun. 7 days had passed since the alien ultimatum. Around the world, people had barely slept. News channels ran constant coverage about the alien message. Scientists debated what it meant. Military experts discussed whether Earth could defend itself. Religious leaders tried to comfort their followers, but in the halls of power, a different conversation was taking place. President Harper sat in the Oval Office with her closest advisors. The past week had been filled with non-stop meetings, phone calls with world leaders, and briefings from every government agency. Now it was time to make a decision. The joint session of the United Nations is ready, Secretary of State Chun reported. Every world leader will be listening. This will be broadcast to every human settlement in the solar system. General Stevens placed a thick folder on the president's desk. Madam President, I need to show you something before you make that speech. Something that changes everything. The president opened the folder. Inside were photographs, technical specifications, and intelligence reports. Her eyes widened as she read. How long have we known about this? She asked. The programs have been running for 30 years, General Stevens replied. Ever since we detected the first alien probe in 1995, we've been preparing for this day. Secretary. Chun leaned forward. Preparing how? General Stevens activated a wall screen. Images appeared showing massive construction projects in space, military installations hidden inside asteroids, weapons platforms disguised as mining equipment, ships that looked like cargo vessels but were actually heavily armed warships. We called it Project Lighthouse, the general explained. The idea was simple. If aliens were watching us, we would make sure they only saw what we wanted them to. See? The president stared at the images. You're telling me that while the aliens thought they were observing primitive humans, we were actually building a secret military? Yes, ma'am. Every colony, every mining station, every research facility has been designed with defense in mind. What they think are civilian installations are actually military bases. Our asteroid mining operations have been producing weapons. Not just resources. Secretary Chun shook his head in amazement. The aliens have been watching us for 50 years, but they've been seeing a carefully constructed lie. General Stevens nodded. We've been playing weak while getting strong. Every UFO sighting that we denied publicly, we studied privately. Every piece of alien technology we could recover, we reverse-engineered. We've been preparing for this conversation. For 3 decades, the president closed the folder. And you think we're ready to fight them? I think we're ready to surprise them, General Stevens replied. They expect us to surrender. They think we're a primitive species that will bow to superior force. They have no idea what we've actually built out there. 2 hours later, President Harper stood before the United Nations General Assembly. The hall was packed with representatives. From every nation on Earth, outside, crowds had gathered in cities around the world to watch the speech on giant screens. My fellow humans, the president began, her voice steady and clear. 7 days ago, we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that those who share the galaxy with us believe they have the right to control our future. The hall was completely silent. Billions of people around the world and throughout the solar system were listening to every word. The Galactic Council has given us an ultimatum. They demand that we abandon our colonies, dismantle our space-based infrastructure, and accept their rule over our species. They believe that because they are older and more numerous, they have the authority to dictate terms to humanity. The president paused, looking directly into the camera. They are wrong, a murmur went through the assembly. This was not the surrender speech many had expected. For 50 years, representatives of this Galactic Council have observed our species. They watched us take our first steps into space. They saw us establish colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan. They observed our expansion into the asteroid belt and beyond. The president's voice grew stronger. What they did not see was our preparation for this moment. What they failed to understand was that humans do not submit easily to threats. On screens around the world, new images began to appear. Footage from hidden cameras showing the true nature of human space installations. Military vessels emerging from what appeared to be civilian structures. Weapon systems activating on stations that the aliens thought were simple research facilities. The installations they observed were not what they appeared to be, the president continued. For 3 decades, humanity has been preparing for the possibility of hostile contact. Every colony they saw has defensive capabilities they never imagined. Every mining station doubles as a military outpost. Every research facility is also a weapons development center. In the alien observation post orbiting Pluto, Council Representative Zeth Carr watched the human broadcast with growing alarm. The primitive species was not behaving as expected. They should have been begging for mercy, not making speeches about preparation and resistance. He activated his communication array and sent an urgent message to the Council homeworld. The humans were not responding according to the established pattern. Back on Earth, President Harper continued her speech. The Galactic Council speaks of laws and accords that humanity never agreed to. They cite authorities that we never recognized. They demand compliance with rules that were made without our input or consent. She leaned forward, her voice carrying. Across the world, we reject their laws. We reject their accords. We reject their assumption that age gives them the right to rule the young. In Moscow, President Volkov watched the speech with his advisors. In Beijing, Premier Li nodded in approval. In London, Prime Minister Williams prepared his own statement of support. The world's leaders had spent the past week coordinating their response. The representative of the Galactic Council demanded our surrender in 7 days, President Harper said. We have prepared our response. She turned to face the camera directly. To Representative Zeth Carr and the Galactic Council, we say this: we are not your subjects. We did not ask for your protection. We do not want your guidance. We are a free species and we intend to remain free. The president's voice grew cold and formal. You have threatened us with corrective action if we do not comply with your demands. Let us be equally clear about our position. Any attempt to force compliance will be met with resistance. Any attempt to attack our colonies will be considered an act of war. Any attempt to invade our solar system will be repelled with all available force. Around the world, people watched in stunned silence. Their leaders were not surrendering to the aliens. They were preparing to fight them. You say you represent 434 species that have learned to accept your rule, the president continued. Perhaps they submitted because they had no choice. Perhaps they were conquered before they could prepare adequate defenses. Perhaps they believed your promises of peaceful coexistence. She paused for effect. Humanity will not make their mistake. In the secret military command center beneath Colorado Springs, Admiral Sarah Rodriguez watched as defensive systems throughout the solar system came online. Hidden weapon platforms activated, disguised warships powered up their engines. Soldiers, who had trained their entire lives for this moment, prepared for battle. President Harper's speech was entering its final phase. We acknowledge that you have advanced technology. We recognize that you have greater numbers. We understand that you have conquered many worlds before ours. Her voice became deadly serious. But you have never faced humanity. You have never encountered a species that spent half a century preparing for your arrival. You have never fought beings who would rather die free than live as slaves. The president stepped back from the podium. Representative Zethkar, you came here expecting our surrender. Instead, you have received our Declaration of Independence. The human species claims the right to exist as free beings in this galaxy. We claim the right to expand, to explore, and to grow without seeking permission from self-appointed rulers. She looked directly into the camera one final time. You wanted our response to your ultimatum? Here it is. We refuse your terms. We reject your authority. We will defend our freedom with our lives if necessary. The president paused, then delivered the words that would echo across the galaxy. If you want to rule us, you will have to conquer us first. And we promise you this, the price of conquest will be higher than you can imagine. The broadcast ended. Around the world, humans sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then slowly applause began. In city squares, on military bases in space, stations throughout the solar system, humans began to cheer. Their leaders had not surrendered. Humanity would fight. In his observation post, Representative Zethkar stared at the now dark screens in disbelief. In his 300 years of council service, he had never encountered a species that rejected their first offer. The established pattern was always the same: contact, ultimatum, submission. But these humans had done something unprecedented. They had said no. He activated his emergency communication array and sent a priority message to the council fleet. The humans were not behaving according to protocol. They appeared to have been preparing for hostile contact for decades, and most disturbing of all, they seemed to think they could win. Zethkar began to prepare his own report to the council. For the first time in his long career, he was not certain that the next phase would go according to plan. These humans were different from any species the council had encountered before. They seemed to have no concept of surrender. As his message raced across space toward the council homeworld, human military commanders throughout the solar system were receiving their own orders. Hidden bases powered up. Secret weapons came online. Soldiers who had trained in complete secrecy prepared for the fight of their lives. The humans had made their choice. Now they would learn if they could live with the consequences. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute refusal to kneel before anyone who demanded their submission. The war for human freedom was about to begin. The Great Council Chamber was a massive dome that could hold representatives from all 434 member species. Today, it was filled with angry voices speaking in dozens of different languages. The humans had done something that had never happened before in galactic history. They had said no. Council Speaker Vexthal raised one of his forearms for silence. As the leader of the oldest species in the galaxy, his word carried great weight. The chamber slowly grew quiet. Representative Zethkar, he said in his deep, rumbling voice, explain to the council how a primitive species has rejected our authority. Zethkar stood at the center of the chamber, feeling the eyes of hundreds of alien representatives watching him. His blue skin had turned a darker shade of purple from stress. Honored Speaker, the humans have behaved unlike any species we have previously contacted. They appear to have been preparing for our arrival for several decades. A ripple of surprise sounds went through the chamber. Representative Quinder of the Zetalian Empire stood up. Preparing? How could they prepare? Our intelligence reports showed a primitive species with basic fusion technology and simple kinetic weapons. Zethkar activated his holographic display. Images appeared showing what the council had observed for 50 years. Simple space stations, basic mining operations, crude rockets carrying small payloads. This is what we saw, he said. But during their broadcast, they revealed the truth. New images appeared? The same space stations, but now showing hidden weapon systems emerging from their hulls. The mining ships suddenly transforming into heavily armed warships. The research facilities revealing massive defensive installations. The chamber erupted. In shocked voices, Representative Morgith of the Korthic Dominion slammed one of his tentacles on his speaking platform. You are telling us that for 50 years they have been lying to us? That everything we observed was fake? Not fake, Zethkar replied, disguised. Every civilian installation had dual purposes. Every peaceful research station was also a military base. They have been building an army while pretending to be explorers. Council Speaker Vexthal stood up slowly. At over 400 years old, he had overseen the peaceful integration of 112 species into the Council. Nothing like this had ever happened before. How is this possible? Our surveillance technology is centuries ahead of theirs. How could they hide so much from us? Zethkar's skin turned an even darker purple. Honored Speaker, I believe they have been studying our technology. Some of the weapons they revealed appeared to be based on our own designs, but modified in ways we did not expect. Admiral Krex of the Hegemony Navy stood up. He was a massive creature, almost 3 meters tall, with gray skin and 4 eyes. His species had conquered 17 worlds before joining the Council. This is ridiculous, he growled. They are barely a Type 1 civilization. Their fastest ships take months to travel between planets in their own system. We have faster than light travel and weapons that can destroy planets. What threat could they possibly pose? General Yixalan of the Altarian Defense Force nodded in agreement. Admiral Krex speaks truth. Our reconnaissance shows they have perhaps 200 armed vessels in their entire system. The standard subjugation fleet has over 500 ships. This will be resolved quickly. But Representative Horthake of the Velian Collective raised a concern. If they have been hiding their true capabilities for 50 years, how do we know what they really have? Our intelligence may be completely wrong. Zethkar brought up more images from the human broadcast. They showed us installations we never knew existed. Asteroid bases we thought were simple mining operations are actually military fortresses. Ships we classified as cargo vessels have weapon systems that rival our destroyers. The chamber was filled with worried murmurs. For 1,000 years, the Galactic Council had operated on a simple principle. Contact a new species, explain the rules, receive their submission. It had worked 434 times. Council Speaker Vexthal called for order. Admiral Krex, what is your assessment of the human military capability? The Admiral activated his own display. Star charts showed the human solar system with red markers indicating known military assets. Based on our previous observations, they have approximately 200 armed vessels, mostly small patrol craft and system defense ships. Their largest vessels are crude compared to our technology. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and basic energy beams. Their defenses consist of simple shields and armor plating. He paused to change the display. A standard Council subjugation fleet consists of 500 ships including 6 dreadnoughts, 24 heavy cruisers, 96 destroyers, and support vessels. The humans would be outnumbered more than 2 to 1, and our technology is far superior. Representative Silvara of the Ethiopian Republic stood up. She was one of the few Council members who specialized in studying primitive species. Admiral Krex, your assessment is based on the assumption that our intelligence is accurate. What if it is not? What if the humans have been showing us only what they wanted us to see? The Admiral's 4 eyes narrowed. Even if they have twice as many ships as we think, they are still no match for Council technology. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Their ships cannot match our speed. This discussion is pointless. But Zethkar was looking at new data that had just arrived from the observation post. His face went completely pale. Honored Speaker, he said, his voice shaking. I have just received an update from our scouts in the human system. He activated his display again. This time, the images showed something that made the entire chamber fall silent. Massive structures were emerging from what had appeared to be empty asteroid fields. Ships that were 10 times larger than anything they had previously observed were powering up their engines. Weapon platforms that had been completely invisible were suddenly broadcasting on all frequencies. How many ships? Council Speaker Vexthal asked quietly. Zethkar checked his data again, hoping he had made a mistake. Current count is over 2,000 vessels of various sizes. And the number is still growing as more installations reveal themselves? The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species were shouting questions and demands. Admiral Krex stared at the display in disbelief. "That is impossible," he said. "Where did they build so many ships? How did they hide them from our sensors?" Representative Horthick had the answer. They did not hide them. They built them inside asteroids, inside moons, inside gas giant atmospheres. They used the natural features of their system to conceal construction. We were looking for traditional shipyards and space stations. We never thought to scan for industrial activity inside celestial bodies. General Yixalan was studying the tactical display. Even if they have more ships than expected, they are still using primitive technology. Numbers alone cannot overcome our technological superiority. But Representative Silvera had been analyzing the human ship designs. "General, look at these vessels more carefully. The hull configurations, the weapon placements, the engine designs, they are not entirely human in origin." She highlighted several ships on the display. These designs incorporate Council technology. They have been reverse engineering our equipment for decades and improving upon it. Admiral Krex slammed his fist on his platform. "Improving? How can a primitive species improve Council technology?" "By approaching it differently," Silvera replied. "We design our ships for multiple roles and extended operations across vast distances. They design theirs specifically for fighting in their own system. Every modification is focused on one goal: destroying Council ships in close-range combat." Council Speaker Vexthal studied the new intelligence reports. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. They had weapons hidden everywhere. They had spent 50 years preparing for this exact moment. "What do our military advisors recommend?" he asked. Admiral Krex stood up, his pride clearly wounded by the intelligence failures. "I recommend we proceed with the subjugation fleet as planned. Even if they have more ships than expected, they cannot match our firepower or technology. We will demonstrate Council authority, and they will surrender once they see our true capabilities." But General Yixalan was not so confident. "Admiral, perhaps we should send additional forces. If our intelligence has been so wrong about their numbers, what else might we be wrong about?" "You want to send additional forces against primitives?" Admiral Krex's voice was full of scorn. "That would show weakness to every species in the galaxy. What would our other member species think if they learned we needed extra ships to handle one backward world?" Representative Quinder raised another concern. "What about their message? They specifically threatened us with war if we attacked their colonies. No species has ever threatened the Council before." Zethkar brought up a recording of the human president's speech. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "Any attempt to attack our colonies will be considered an act of war. Any attempt to invade our solar system will be repelled with all available force." The chamber was quiet as they listened to the words. There was something in the human leader's voice that was different from the usual pleading of conquered species. It was not fear or desperation, it was cold determination. "She means it," Representative Silvera said quietly. "This is not a bluff or a negotiating position. They actually intend to fight us." Council Speaker Vexthal made his decision. "Admiral Krex, you will proceed with the subjugation fleet as planned. The Council cannot show weakness by changing our response to primitive threats. However, you will prepare additional forces in case they are needed." Admiral Krex bowed his massive head. "It will be done, honored Speaker. The humans will learn the price of defying Council authority." As the Council session ended, representatives filed out of the chamber in small groups, discussing what they had learned. Many were troubled by the intelligence failures. Others were excited to see how the humans would respond to Council military power. But in a private meeting room, several representatives met in secret. "This is not how first contact is supposed to proceed," Representative Horthick said to his colleagues. "The humans have been planning for this moment for decades. They are not acting like a species that expects to lose." Representative Silvera nodded. "I have studied 127 primitive species over my career. None of them ever prepared for hostile contact the way the humans have. They are behaving as if they expect to win, which is impossible, said Representative Morgeth. No single species has ever successfully resisted the Council. But as they prepared to leave, each of them was thinking the same thing. The humans were different from every other species the Council had encountered. They had said no when everyone expected them to surrender. They had prepared for war when everyone thought they would beg for peace. And most disturbing of all, they seemed genuinely confident that they could fight the most powerful military force in the galaxy and survive. The Council fleet would arrive at the human system in 6 days. Very soon they would learn if human confidence was justified, or if it was simply the last desperate act of a doomed species. But for the first time in galactic history, the outcome was not certain. Admiral Krex stood on the bridge of the Council dreadnought Eternal Justice, watching the human solar system grow larger on the main display. Behind him, 5 more dreadnoughts and their escort fleets prepared for what should be a simple demonstration of Council power. All ships report ready for subjugation protocol, reported Commander Veltar from the communications station. Admiral Krex nodded. In his 200 years of military service, he had overseen the peaceful integration of 37 species into the Council. The process was always the same. Arrive with overwhelming force, demonstrate superior firepower, accept surrender, establish protectorate status. Begin standard approach pattern, he ordered. All ships maintain formation. Charge weapons to 60%. We want them to understand our capabilities without appearing overly aggressive. The Council fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation. 6 massive dreadnoughts led the way, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. Behind them came 24 heavy cruisers, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and shield generators. 96 destroyers flanked the larger ships, their weapon arrays clearly visible to any observers. "Sir," called the sensor operator, "we are detecting increased activity throughout the human system." Ships are moving from their stations. Admiral Krex was not concerned. Expected behavior. They are probably evacuating their civilians and preparing to surrender. Keep monitoring, but do not consider them a threat. But Lieutenant Kexner at the tactical station was seeing something different. "Admiral, the human ships are not retreating. They appear to be taking up defensive positions." The Admiral moved to the tactical display. Red dots showed Council ships approaching Earth. Green dots showed human vessels throughout the solar system. The humans were indeed moving, but not away from the approaching fleet. "How many ships are they deploying?" Admiral Krex asked. "Current count is 347 vessels, sir." Wait. Lieutenant Kexner paused as more contacts appeared on his screen, now showing 423 contacts, still climbing. Commander Veltar looked up from her station. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They are demanding that we leave their system immediately." Admiral Krex laughed. "Demanding? They have no position from which to make demands. Open a channel to their leadership." The main screen changed to show the bridge of a human space station. A woman in a dark blue uniform appeared on screen. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard. "I am Admiral Sarah Rodriguez of the United Earth Defense Force," she said. "You are entering human space without permission. Turn around and leave immediately." Admiral Krex stepped forward so the human could see his full size and intimidating appearance. "I am Admiral Krex of the Galactic Council fleet. We are here to accept your surrender and establish Council authority over your system. Prepare to receive our representatives." Admiral Rodriguez did not appear impressed by his size or threats. "Admiral Krex, you were warned that any attempt to invade our system would be met with force. This is your final warning. Leave now or face the consequences." "Consequences?" Admiral Krex's 4 eyes narrowed. "You have 400 primitive ships against our 500 advanced vessels. You have kinetic weapons against our energy barriers. You have no chance of victory. Surrender now and your species will be treated well under Council guidance." Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward in her chair. "Admiral, you have made one critical error. You still think we are primitive." The transmission ended. Admiral Krex stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned back to his crew. All ships? Advance to attack position. Charge weapons to full power. It seems the humans need a demonstration of Council superiority. But as the Council fleet moved deeper into the solar system, something unexpected happened. The asteroids around them began to move. Sir, Lieutenant Kexner called out, I am detecting massive energy signatures from the asteroid belt. Those are not natural formations. On the main display, chunks of rock that had appeared to be ordinary asteroids suddenly opened like flowers. Hidden inside were massive weapons platforms, their gun barrels aimed directly at the Council fleet. Impossible. Admiral Krex breathed. How did they hide installations that large? More surprises followed. Ships that had appeared to be simple cargo vessels suddenly transformed as hidden armor plates retracted to reveal weapon systems. Space stations that looked like research facilities deployed defensive barriers that glowed with energy patterns. A Council had never seen before. Sir, we are detecting over 1,500 human vessels now, Lieutenant Kexner reported, his voice tight with stress. And they are all armed with weapons that register as Council-level technology. Commander Veltar was monitoring human communications. Admiral, they are coordinating their movements. This is not a panicked response. This is a planned defensive operation. Admiral Krex felt the first touch of doubt. The humans had indeed been preparing for this moment. But Council technology was still superior. Numbers alone could not overcome their advantage. All ships begin the demonstration, he ordered. Target the largest human installation and fire. A warning shot. Show them what Council weapons can do. The dreadnought Eternal Justice fired a single plasma bolt at a human space station orbiting Mars. The energy beam streaked across space, bright enough to be seen from planets away. It struck the station's shields and ... Sir, Lieutenant Kexner said in disbelief, the human shields absorbed the plasma bolt completely, no damage detected. Admiral Krex stared at the tactical display. A warning shot from a Council dreadnought should have destroyed any primitive shield system. Instead, the human station sat undamaged, its defensive barriers glowing brighter than before. How is that possible? He demanded. Before anyone could answer, the human station fired back. But instead of the primitive kinetic weapons the Council expected, it launched a volley of plasma bolts that looked exactly like Council technology. The shots struck the Eternal Justice's shields and something impossible happened. The Council shields flickered and failed for several seconds before regenerating. Damage report, Admiral Krex barked. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sol. The Galactic Council chambers were no longer filled with confident voices discussing the integration of primitive species. Instead, hushed conversations filled the halls as representatives tried to understand how their perfect system had collapsed. Council Speaker Vexthal looked older than his 400 years as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports. 3 more Council fleets had been sent to human space. All 3 had been destroyed. The humans were not just defending their system anymore. They were expanding. Representative Zethkar stood before the emergency assembly, his blue skin now permanently pale from stress. Behind him, holographic displays showed the new reality of galactic politics. Honored representatives, he began, I must report that the human expansion has continued. They have established colonies in 17 systems that were previously under Council protection. Angry voices erupted throughout the chamber. Representative Quinder of the Zetalian Empire stood up. How is this possible? Those systems are hundreds of light years from their homeworld. They do not have faster-than-light travel. Zethkar activated a new display. That was true 6 months ago. It is no longer true today. The hologram showed sleek human ships that looked nothing like the crude vessels the Council had observed for 50 years. These ships moved between stars at speeds that should have been impossible for human technology. Where did they get FTL? Drives? Demanded Admiral Krex. The massive warrior had been demoted after his defeat at Earth, but he was still the Council's senior military advisor. They built them, Zethkar replied simply. Using technology they captured from our destroyed fleets. The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Not only had the humans defeated council forces, they had salvaged the wreckage and reverse-engineered faster-than-light travel in just 6 months. Representative Silvera of the Etherian Republic accessed her own data. The humans are not just expanding randomly, they are targeting specific systems. Systems where the local species have expressed dissatisfaction with council rule. She brought up a galactic map showing human expansion. Red dots marked their new colonies, and every single one was in a system where the council had faced resistance or rebellion in recent years. They are building an alliance, she continued. They are offering protection to species that want to. Leave the council. Council Speaker Vextel felt the foundations of galactic order crumbling beneath him. For 1,000 years, the council had maintained peace through strength. No species had ever successfully challenged their authority. Now, the humans were not just defying them. They were offering an alternative. What species have joined this human alliance? He asked. Zethkar's display changed to show a list that grew longer every day. The Kethmori were the first. They declared independence 3 months ago and requested human protection. The Velthari followed 2 weeks later. Then the Zorani, the Plexuna, and the Mordith Collective. With each name, more representatives in the chamber looked uncomfortable. These were not primitive species like the humans had appeared to be. These were advanced civilizations with their own military forces and industrial capabilities. How many species have joined the human alliance? Council Speaker Vextel asked quietly. 47 as of this morning, Zethkar replied. And the number grows every day. Admiral Krex slammed his fist on his platform. This is rebellion. We should crush them all before this alliance grows stronger. But General Yixalan of the Altarian Defense Force shook his head. Admiral, we have tried that approach. Every time we send ships to stop the humans, they destroy them. Every time we attack one of their new allies, 10 more species ask for human protection. Representative Horthic of the Velian Collective stood up slowly. His species had been among the first to join the council over 800 years ago. Perhaps, he said carefully, we should consider why so many species want to leave the council. Perhaps the problem is not the humans. Perhaps the problem is us. The chamber erupted in angry voices. The idea that the council system might be flawed was almost unthinkable to most representatives, but Representative Silvera was nodding in agreement. The humans have offered something we never did. They offer alliance, not rule. They offer partnership, not submission. Partnership with primitives? Representative Morgith of the Korthic Dominion was outraged. We are the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy. We bring order and peace to younger civilizations. Do we? Silvera challenged. Or do we bring control and taxation? When was the last time any council member species was allowed to make its own decisions about expansion, or trade, or military development? The question hung in the air. Every species in the council had given up their independence in exchange for peace and protection. But after 1,000 years, many had begun to question whether the price was worth it. Zethkar activated another display. This one showed intercepted human communications, translated into various galactic languages. The humans have been broadcasting their message throughout the galaxy, he said. They call it the Declaration of Galactic Independence. The recorded voice of President Harper filled the chamber. Her words had been heard by billions of beings across thousands of worlds. We hold these truths to be universal, the human leader said. That all sentient species are created equal. That they are endowed with certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The chamber was completely silent as the message continued. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among the governed, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. Representative Quinder was the first to speak when the message ended. They are calling for the end of the council. No, Representative Silvera corrected. They are calling for the end of rule without consent. They are saying that no species should be forced to obey laws they did not help create. Council Speaker Vexthal tried to maintain order as arguments broke out across the chamber. Some representatives demanded immediate military action against the human alliance. Others suggested that negotiation might be possible. A few even quietly suggested that the humans might have a point, but the debate was interrupted by an urgent message from the Council Defense Force. Admiral Krex received the communication and his 4 eyes went wide with shock. "Honored Speaker," he announced, "I have just received word that human fleets have appeared at the edge of 17 Council core systems. They are not attacking, they are simply dieting." The chamber fell dead silent. The core systems were the heart of Council power. They were the most heavily defended worlds in the galaxy, protected by massive fleets and orbital defense platforms. "How many ships?" Council Speaker Vexthal asked. Admiral Krex checked his data. "Our scouts report over 3,000 human vessels. But that number may be low. The humans have become very good at hiding their true strength." The implications were clear to everyone in the chamber. The humans were demonstrating that they could reach any Council world whenever they chose. They were showing that Council defenses could not stop them. "Are they demanding our surrender?" Representative Morgith asked. "No," Admiral Krex replied. "They have sent no demands. No ultimatums. They are simply there, letting us know that they can be there." Zethkar received another communication. "Honored Speaker, we are receiving a transmission from the humans. It is addressed to the entire Council." "Put it through," the Speaker ordered. The main display activated, showing President Harper standing in what appeared to be the bridge of a human warship. Behind her, the lights of a Council core world were visible through the viewport. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, "6 months ago you sent us an ultimatum. You demanded our surrender and threatened us with conquest if we refused. We rejected your demands and defeated your forces." Her voice was calm and steady, showing no anger or triumph. "Since then, you have sent 3 more fleets to our space. All 3 were destroyed. You have threatened the species that chose to join our alliance. Those threats were unsuccessful." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "We could have responded to your aggression with aggression of our own. We could have attacked your worlds as you attacked ours. We could have demanded your surrender as you demanded ours." The chamber held its breath, waiting for the human ultimatum that would mirror their own. "But we will not," President Harper continued, "because we are not you. We do not believe that might makes right. We do not believe that advanced species have the right to rule primitive ones. We do not believe that age grants authority over youth." She gestured to the Council world visible behind her. "Our fleets are here not to threaten you, but to protect the species that have chosen freedom over security. We offer no ultimatums because we seek no empire. We demand no surrender because we want no subjects." The President's expression became more serious. "But let there be no mistake about our resolve. Any attempt to attack members of our alliance will be met with the full force of human military power. Any attempt to restore Council rule over free species will result in the complete destruction of the attacking forces." She leaned forward slightly. "The age of galactic empire is over. The age of enforced peace through submission is finished. The galaxy now has a choice between the old way of rule through fear and the new way of cooperation through respect." The transmission paused as President Harper seemed to consider her next words carefully. "To the species of the galaxy still under Council rule, we say this: you are not prisoners unless you choose to be. You are not subjects unless you accept that status. Freedom is yours if you have the courage to claim it." She straightened up, her voice becoming formal. "To the Galactic Council, we say this: your authority ends where our guns begin. Your law extends only as far as your ability to enforce it. And your ability to enforce it ends today." The transmission cut off, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Council Speaker Vexthal looked around at the representatives of 434 species. For 1,000 years, they had ruled the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. They had brought peace, but at the price of freedom. Now, a single species that had been ignored as primitive had shattered their power in just 6 months. The humans had not just defeated them militarily. They had offered the galaxy something the Council never could, the choice to be free. "What are your orders, honored speaker?" Admiral Krex asked. Vexthel looked at the tactical displays showing human fleets positioned throughout Council space. He thought about the species that had already left to join the human alliance. He considered the cost of a war that could destroy both sides. "Send a message to all Council fleets," he said finally. "Stand down. Do not engage human forces unless directly attacked." The chamber erupted in protests, but the speaker raised his hand for silence. "The humans have won," he said simply. "Not just the battles, but the war for the hearts and minds of the galaxy. Fighting them now would only prove their point about the Council ruling through force alone." As the session ended and representatives filed out to contact their homeworlds, everyone understood that the galaxy had changed forever. The 1,000-year reign of the Galactic Council was over. In its place, a new order was emerging. An order based not on the rule of the strong over the weak, but on the revolutionary idea that all species deserved the right to choose their own destiny. The humans had not conquered the galaxy, they had freed it. And that, perhaps, was the most terrifying victory of all.